And welcome back once again to the PCS Spring Split 2022. With 2 matches down, we got 3 more to go today, and I think this one is looking extremely hype here, Clement. I cannot wait to see who comes out on top between Frank Esports and Megabank Beyond Gaming. But before we do that, I do want to take a moment to thank our wonderful sponsors, CTBC Bank and Caliber. Thank you for making the PCS possible. Now, Clement, I think a few weeks ago, this match wouldn't have looked that close on paper, but a few things have changed.
Yeah, this has been a middle-of-the-table match, and we had Beyond Gaming just losing a couple matches, sliding down the table. They're definitely not on the same standing as they were in 2021 summer, and I think this is a really good match to see if some of those positions have improved and if they have learned new tricks. Specifically, for on the side of, I said, Frank Esports, is the emergence of Pretender. If we're talking about between him and Minji, I feel like Pretender might just be a plus version of Minji. He plays the same champions, the Arya, Kali, and the Vex are all there. And from what we've seen of the Vex performances, hands down, it goes to Pretender. On the other side, though...
This is good, yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like Beyond Gaming, this is still a very solid matchup for them because of the top lane. Kurt is pretty much a punching bag, and Liang is a hullbreaker abuser. So it seems like a match made in heaven, at least from Liang's perspective. So we'll see if Kurt can kind of step up to the plate and assert Frank Esports as a legitimate playoff threat.
Yeah, not to mention, I think the bottom lane can really throw a few punches on either side, looking at the likes of Eminem versus Wako. I think those are 2 players that showed their chops last year in the PCS, and I think this could definitely be quite a brawl fest. But we'll have to see if things don't collapse under the weight of one lane or another. But Frank Esports on the blue side, they are Kurt, Holo, Pretender, Eminem, and Rebirth. Ooh. And this is the squad that came together at what is very close to the actual last minute. And Pretender, the substitute for PSG Talon, has stepped up. I agree with you completely. I think he might be actually a better version of Minji, which is crazy when you consider this guy started playing like Victor and Control Mages. It felt like maybe he thought he had to. I don't know. Minji never was under any sort of illusion of that because he has been playing as many snowballing assassins as he pleases. Joined, of course, by Liang, Husha, Wako, and Kino. And this is a squad that is looking to assert themselves and really just gatekeep out these other upstarts, of which I think Frank Esports is the most upstart.
It's definitely the one that is in hot pursuit to overtake their position, and I think the matchup that's most important for Megabank Beyond Gaming going into the first round of playoffs. They would definitely like to stay on the upper side of the bracket, so that's kind of the team that they need to look out for. And in the meantime, we did see, just a pose coming in from Liang. He is a very prolific streamer in the community, and he is known for his rages. So that's just kind of what he's referring to right there. And he has a good reason to rage. Like, I think Beyond Gaming has not really been living up to their hype compared to teams that we had a lot more doubts, like Deep Cross Gaming or even the new PSG.
No, you're right. And I think the team also somewhat rises and falls a little bit with Liang, or at least it seems to be a good metric, a good indicator of how well they're doing, because he's so much more ahead in those wins than he is in the losses.
Yeah, when I was looking at the stats, on average, Liang is up by 619 gold when he's ahead in lane, when the team wins, but in losses, he's only up by about 200 gold. So the top lane really enables Beyond Game to play a 1-3-1 strategy and for Hullbreaker to actually get maximum value. Against Frank Esports, that's going to be very valuable. But of course, both of the carries, mainly their damage dealers, are still going to be coming from the bottom side matchup. Beyond Gaming, they don't really play that much around their bottom side anymore, but you can still see Wako, even left in isolation, still dealing a lot of damage. But on the other side, for Eminem, even though he's the true carry of the team, we can tell that his stats don't really reflect it sometimes. No jungle ganks going down there whatsoever. Holo, as we have talked about, is a little bit more defensive of a jungler, so 0% first blood participation compared to 50% on the other side from Wako.
I feel like these are the two bot lanes in the league that kind of get most left to their own devices, funnily enough. So I'm curious to see if it's just an out-and-out slugfest, who actually comes out on top. Another reason why Eminem's numbers might be weirdly a little bit lower in terms of like damage percentage is because Pretender's picking up the slack. He actually has the highest damage share and the highest DPM out of any mid laner, and that with the lowest kill participation, which is completely crazy. But anyways, into the picks and bans we go. Akali off the board. We see the Tryndamere removed as well, and the Jinx banned away from Wako. Obviously, one of his most played champions, like it is just about everybody's, but his win rate's so much higher than that on the Aphelios. They clearly have noticed a pattern here. On the opposite side, Beyond, standard bans across the board. No Xin Zhao for Holo, no Zeri for Eminem, and no Rise for Pretender.
So whenever you're drafting against Beyond Gaming, you're essentially drafting against Minji. That's always the big question here. And right now, Minji only has, basically, his strong champions are Ahri, Zoe, and Vex. And all three of those are early tempo game champions. So we see Frank kind of at a crossroads here. Are they going to contest Fight Fire with Fire, try to do Pretender versus Holo? Or are they going to go straight for teamfight prowess? With the Aphelios pick, I don't think we necessarily see what's going to happen just yet. I think it's kind of understandable that with Kurt versus Liang, they're not willing to go into the Gwen matchup blind. But this is a very important draft series for Beyond Gaming, and they're just going to straight go for their cards. They're not going to wait for Minji to potentially be banned out.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense, and I think giving Husha a champion that can set him up for it makes a lot of sense as well, and the Lee Sin is locked in. But this is an interesting adaptation from Frank by banning the Jinx, opting into the Aphelios. It wasn't just trying to put Wako on his less winning champion, it was forcing him on one of the non-strong AD carries, whatever you want to call it. I mean, maybe this is where the Xayah starts to come out again. Clearly, there's some focus on bot side, even though Minji is a big threat. You have to take him into consideration, but it's also a lot of comfort here as they can lock in the Vex. I think Pretender has definitely looked like the best Vex in this league, despite the fact that he doesn't have a win on it. He really should. I think that game that we last saw him play it, I think that was just kind of a throw from the rest of the squad.
Yeah, it was so good, and I think a large problem why they didn't win that one was actually because of some of K2's very questionable positioning coming into team fights.
Look who's not here today.
Exactly.
Rebirth in the roster.
Rebirth has been our best Nautilus player so far. Even though he's only played it a couple games, he's definitely showcased his willingness to flash block and also his understanding of how the trajectory of the Dredge line actually changes in mid-flight. Well, it starts to like flatten out at the end, and he used that to absolutely amazing effect. I'm very, very hyped about Rebirth coming on to the roster. I want to see what he can do. Hopefully he'll get that Nautilus again. In the meantime, for Beyond Gaming, I see that they're trying to play mid-jungle, and they should still have the lead with Lee Sin and Ahri. They already have Xin Zhao banned out, so I don't think there's much that Frank can do to fight Fire with Fire and present a strong 2v2. So I think Frank are more trending towards kind of a team fight build right here on their side, and also they have a blind pick. Gnar. Again, I'm not a huge fan of this, and it usually means that you are going to be playing from the back foot. So I think Frank is just trying to survive and counter-engage with their competition.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that you can do with a Gnar. You just have to play around the timing. As you mentioned, Kurt has had some struggles up in that top side, but if he can't survive up against Liang, and they are throwing some bans at the BYG top laner, that is always an option. So Jace off the table. I feel like this has got to be a Gwen ban to follow through.
Well, I don't think they would ban Gwen because Gnar is technically considered a counter. Like, I know we have seen the Gwen just pop off a lot of times, but technically speaking...
It still feels bad, man. It's like, okay, we don't want to give Kino the set, which admittedly he's really good on, and got buffed on 12.4. But yeah, no good choices, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. I don't even think Set actually pairs that well with Jhin. Jin's trying to stay very far away from combat, so Leona is usually the pairing with Jhin rather than Set. And you could see Kino was kind of bemused that his Set got banned out in that situation.
It demands respect.
It definitely does. I don't like the Set ban, in all honesty. I feel like Set actually has lower engage range than what Beyond Gaming are really looking to do. For Frank Esports here, their priority should just be strong champions that can punish engages. I don't think Jarvan is that champion. Jarvan is about very extreme engages themselves. So Volibear fits a lot better. And when we're talking about playing counter engage, hey, what's better than Renata? We just saw a great performance from Woody today. This could be another pick that slots in well.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting one, but we're not locked in just yet. Rebirth toying with a few ideas here. Either way, we'll get to see, well, I'm going to say a new champion out of him, but it was always possible that we could have seen something else. No, that's going to be the Braum coming in. So that's also, you know, a bit of a counter-engaged champion. You're looking for the defensive start, try to throw up that shield, stop the fourth shot damage from the Jhin. But there are other options to try and tag team your way in, right? There's a lot of mobility on some of these other champions, and if you can time that stand behind me right, we could see a little bit of a taxi Braum come in, and of course, that's going to be the Gwen. Liang just says, no, I'm opting into it. That's fine. I've got one win already on this champion. It was a 10 KDA game. Liang is extremely comfortable when he gets to play this type of champion.
And the thing to note is that Liang did not die in their previous matchup either. He went 4-0-3 while keeping Kurt to 0 kills on the other end. So it just looks like, you know, Liang is very comfortable going into a player difference matchup. We have seen Rest and ICU choose the Gnar as a counter pick to the Gwen. Liang is saying, I just don't care about this counter matchup. It doesn't matter to me whatsoever. I'm going to play safe, and it looks like, to me, the main prerogative for Beyond Gaming is still going to be snowballing Lee Sin Ahri. And for the other side, for FAK Esports, this is a very strong teamfight composition. There's no question about it. It can punish people who come in with the Glacial Fissure very effectively, and you have the Vex with the AoE Fear, so it's very hard to engage onto this comp just going into melee range. I do think Beyond Gaming will be put to the test in how well they can execute flanks and get picks around objectives.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the challenge for them right now, and we'll have to be keeping an eye out if they can get an edge early enough. Of course, if they do get that snowball off, that does spell a lot of trouble for Frank, but if it does get into that late game stages, and this team showcasing the increased synergy that they've had with more games on stage together, well, FAK Esports are the up-and-comers, and we'll see if Beyond Gaming, last year's up-and-comers, can shut them out.
I'm just so happy that we get the two best champions from our respective mid laners. You have Ahri on the one side from Minji. Last time I checked, 23 KDA. And Vex, which is, despite it, you know, as we mentioned, didn't get a win. We saw that beautiful play against J-Team where he went in 1v4 and killed the AD carry by himself from Pretender. So
he didn't lose that game for sure. That was, I really like Pretender's Vex. There's a couple of players here in the PCS that do it well. And now here we are once again, and they're both going for Electrocute, all that big old burst damage. But look at the difference. Pretender is on full combat summoners. No teleports here. He's got the Ignite.
Ooh. Very interesting. I didn't really expect this coming out from Pretender. He doesn't have a matchup where he has a clear push advantage here, so I expected him to play a little bit safer, but I think his mentality might be that, hey, I'm going to go find out that Jhin. If he's going to be using his current call, he actually exposes where he is. So that's a very easy shadow surge into the back line, and maybe that Ignite will help Pretender secure those kills.
Yeah, I mean, it's a risky move, but if it pays off big. So, speaking of risky moves, Beyond tried for a little bit of level 1 shenanigans, didn't find anybody on that top roam, and line of scrimmage here from the FAK Esports side. As we get underway, shouldn't expect too many more surprises.
Taking a look at the summoners right here, we do have cleanses coming in from both sides in the bottom lane, so it does signal that it might be a pretty quiet early game. I don't expect these two supports to really be banging heads all that much. Meantime, common move. Leon just putting some damage on Holo.
He's bullying him off his own blue buff. Oh, wow. Talk about confidence. Buys so much time for his opposite number. I mean, that is even drawing Kurt's attention, so there's no farm advantage gained. That's huge.
Yeah, we have seen this move a lot from Gwens, especially when they're going up against ranged top laners. What you're doing is you're basically pulling the enemy ranged top towards yourself, and that gives you a matchup, advantage matchup level 1 while you're in melee. So it's just kind of a no-brainer. We really should see teams expecting this move, especially in the blue side. And it really affects Holo and his pathing. He wasn't able to clear off blue buff. Instead, it just goes Merc Wolves into clearing down his red buff. Now, the question here is, does Beyond Gaming fall for that? Because this potentially could throw them for a loop because of the timing here. It looks like Wako will do his due diligence, though.
Yeah, that's important. This is a team that definitely understands their fundamentals, even if they have occasionally struggled to put the more like cohesive plays together at top of the board. But they've been able to do it consistently against the weaker teams. Now, Pretender in a bit of danger here as Husha walks up and tags him. Doesn't find the kill, though, and one tower shot, I believe, or excuse me, just a little follow-up damage. Pretender is tanked, and that'll be the end of that gank.
Really nicely done played here by Pretender. You know, drags the jungle in for a tower shot, reveals him on the map, and the fear timing onto Ninja was perfect. That's usually the most difficult thing about the Vex, is that you have to keep those fears in hand when those ganks are coming. It's a very long cooldown early on. He gets it with the Q down. He reads Minji like a book as he just walks up there, so he defends everything quite nicely. And as you can see, I think Holo, you know, has survived from his deficit. He has a gank path, not really a gank path, but a clear path towards the top lane again. Liang does spot Holo out and is going to drop a ward in the meantime to prevent that.
They're going to have eyes on that blue the entire time. Pretender under fire here in the mid lane. Going to be forced back. Liang finds Kurt in the brush, just trims a little bit off the top. But Kurt so far, I mean, his job's kind of to survive, right? Technically, it's the counter matchup, but again, the nameplate diff is definitely a big one in this. And I think if Kurt can come out of this laning phase unscathed, he can be pretty happy.
All right, we are going to have a big trade down here, and Holo just one-shots that.
Gets the smite down, but he might pay for it. Ooh, has to flash the charm. And Pretender was a little bit late to follow up, so advantage Beyond once again, and now it's actually Kurt forcing Liang away for a sec.
It's a very dicey move to actually just use your E in front of the enemy jungler, like Holo just did right there. But all in all,
he's gonna get rebuffed.
That's true, but you know, I don't think blue buff is that detrimental to him. It's just I actually feel like that trade does give him a window against Minji, as long as he doesn't hit level 6 too soon, and Kurt gets a good trade on Leon.
Yeah, Kurt actually has a level advantage right now on the Gwen, so we are starting to see why Frank had a little bit more confidence in this matchup. Ooh, Pretender. He is falling behind right now. Minji is giving him a roughie.
Yeah, it's very difficult to outplay this lane, especially when you're going up against someone that has been into your materializer early on. It just gives the side of Ahri just incredible shoving potential here. And with the top side jungle completely scouted out, I feel like Beyond Gaming will transition into sort of a top side 3v3 skirmish. I think they definitely have the lead in that terms, in that sort of game plan, and it could really easily chain into a Herald. So I think that's where most likely we're going to see the next round of contact coming from.
You're right. I think right now we are looking at like some disadvantages of opting into the full Ignite build here for Pretender. He misses pretty much an entire wave off the fact that he can't teleport. So, gonna be a little tough as he's still sitting on level 5. And here's Kino and Husha. And Rebirth. Oh boy. Party in the mid lane, and it's over before it started.
Yeah, even with the fear, he's not able to get out of position. Kino, with such a good patience right there, is able to force the flash without even venturing much outside the brush. So I'm really surprised by him getting that sort of range on the Leona. He definitely has mastered this champion quite well. His most played career-wise, definitely going to this champion. Meanwhile, Husha is going to pay Kurt a visit right here. Liang is level 6 with Ghost, so this could be very dangerous.
Yeah, a little stop there. Ooh, the Megadar, though. Liang going to be taken very low. Does have Ghost to try and speed away if he needed it, but maybe this is going to be part of the act if Husha wants to come up to the top. Does not have Dragon's Rage kick just yet. And it's just going to settle for the back. But Kurt, honestly, having the lane of his life, I feel like.
Yeah. He's up by 1 CS. I feel like that move by Husha was just to ensure Liang would get a comfortable TP. You have the Leeching Leer and straight back to lane. Meanwhile, not advisable for Frank Esports right here. Ahri does have wave control, and she is level 6, so I wouldn't recommend this from Frank. Very risky move. I think they're just trying to drop wards down. Double pinks into the bottom side. In the meantime, Beyond Gaming are starting to look for those invades in the top side. They know that jungle camps are up, and Ari is off the map and in position. So could be very dangerous for Frank Esports. Let's see how they approach their top side.
Minji is definitely a threat at the moment. You have to respect the fact that he could be just about anywhere, anytime. Although he is looking to head back into his own lane. A lot of wards from Beyond Gaming to really cover this river. However, there is a bit of a flip down at the bottom, where Frank have a number of their own. We'll have to see if that pays off for them in this one. And bot lane has been a little quieter, as expected. Neither jungler really making too many plays towards that lane, as these teams are wont to do.
I'm very interested about the item build coming here from Waka. We don't usually see this. Sure, there has been a lot of just Swifty boots coming out from the Jhin, as you don't get much from Berserkers. But it's just to see the armor boots coming out is definitely still something new. This is a very strong signal that I'm just going to win lane because you can't trade against me. There's nothing you can do about that. It's still kind of a rare one, and makes him significantly weaker in team fights. I feel like Wako's read is just like, well, if Shadow Surge finds me, I'm kind of dead either way, so I might as well win lane.
Yeah, hey, try to stay alive as well you can. I mean, that's going to be a little tough. A lot of targets were thrown his way in that bot side, and Frank definitely wanted to give themselves an advantage, so if he can turn that around, that feels pretty good. Frank will be able to secure this first dragon, though. Hex Tech Drake, picked up by Holo and Rebirth. A little bit late on it, but it's really not a whole lot of chance for Husha to come in and try and contest. Should be able to get out pretty safely, unless Holo delivers himself here, and he does. That is a little weird, but here comes the Vex. Maybe it was all a trap, as Minji gets first blood, but gets turned around immediately after that. Pretender finding a follow-up, looking for two. Not going to be able to get it as Husha tags his way out to safety, but a nice 1-2 punch there.
Yeah, very interesting play coming in, and Wako, they're getting some 2v2 action in.
Yeah, Rebirth soaks most of it, though, so nothing too much trouble. That is one thing a Braum can do for you. Big old unbreakable shield up in the front. A while ago I learned just how unbreakable it was, Clement. I remember I saw a really interesting interaction a few years back in the LEC. We'll talk about it in a minute, because it does feel like this was premeditated. They tanked it. I thought maybe Holo would get out of harm's way. Minji still gets first blood, but, I mean, Pretender, that feels good to get a kill back on the board.
That's absolutely huge for Pretender right here. He takes back control away. He was pushed behind this entire time in the laning phase, so getting some reprieve right there. And we just saw the way that Holo played that. I think it was actually pretty smart. He knew that he wasn't going to get completely tanked out, and he was able to survive the execute from Husha just because he gets extra HP when he pulls out that Stormbringer. So just using a little bit of mechanics right there. Also the stun onto Minji to guarantee the Shadow Surge was quite nicely played. It looked like a really bad play, poking your face in at half HP against most likely the enemy jungler. But I gotta give props to it, and it was actually pretty well calculated.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out. I think they would have liked to have gotten the first blood for themselves, but all in all, pretty good for Frank. And they keep the gold game relatively close. It's only a 1,000 deficit. But, really quick, I want to go back to my story time, because I got y'all read up about it. Yeah, I learned that Braum's shield can stop an Emperor's Divide. At least, like, the one soldier. What? Yeah. I don't know if it's been changed, but in the coding, specifically, it will actually stop the full push if it intercepts with the shield. One of the soldiers will not be even. And I looked it up, and I was trying to figure out what was going on, and I think one of the devs said, yeah, this is an intended thing, because it's literally supposed to be unbreakable. And I'm like, that's so cool.
But it doesn't stop crowd control, though, so that just feels kind of spaghetti-ish to me.
Potato.
It's fine. Fun interactions are definitely good. Kurt might be in trouble.
And he was winning his lane. Oh no, Husha gonna zone him out, flash kick, and good night, sweet prince.
Yeah, and this is how Beyond Gaming likes to play. They like to open up those long side lanes, even when there is no hull breaker here. But Frank Gaming, they do have a countermeasure, as we have Pretender with Shadow Surge going to the bot side.
Yeah, we do, but Kino, oh my goodness, they flash right on top of him, and they're going to try and burst him down before he can even get the combo off. They pull it off for one, but can they get any more? Holo and Rebirth and Eminem running for the hills as the curtain call is open. Rebirth soaks up as many hits as he can. Oh, man, I don't think they were ready for that. Meanwhile, Shelly's charging down top lane. Frank, we're not prepared.
Ooh, that was a very dire situation there. And Beyond Gaming just read what Frank Esports were going to do. It was like an open book. They had a ward right next to their blue buff, so they saw the enclosure basically coming in. They knew there was a trap 4v2 bot lane. Husha doesn't have Dragon Rage or Flasher. He could be in danger.
Kurt wants revenge. Kurt wants revenge. He's the kickback. He's not going to get it. Oh, man, that feels good when you can get that back right away.
There was no wards on Husha anymore. No Dragon's Rage, no Flash. So, yeah, it was just easy hunting from Kurt. Chases him down.
Yeah. Hey, you know, Frank are fighting. They got teeth. They got tenacity. And I think despite Beyond getting good reads on the map, we see signs of why we were so hype on this squad.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like Frank Esports are in a position to go into a fairly equal team fight. Right now, we have Beyond Gaming with about a 3,000 gold lead, almost a 3,000 gold lead, but I still don't think that they are super confident in going into the 5v5s. They probably still want Liang to be isolated in this lane a little bit more for him to get a lead here. And Kurt just to be able to run away with those boots too.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about how this has been a counter matchup, and we kind of doubted it would be as effective as it is. There's obviously still plenty of time in the game for that to be proved one way or the other, but Kurt is having a very good lane up against the likes of Liang, and he even got a kill back on the board after getting some unwanted attention from Husha.
Yeah, as the melee in this matchup, you definitely want to wait for level 11. That's a huge power spike to chase down, and you're also looking for Cosmic Drive to keep up the movement speed for that kill to happen there. So right now, it's still going to look pretty even. Don't be fooled. This is still massively in Liang's advantage in terms of the gold. Oh, but he has to go in here.
Oh, needlework spent. Kurt, he's got his Narbar building, and he's got no flash. That's going to be the hop, and he's going to keep following. We've seen Kurt do it once. Mega Gnar building. Liang trying to zoom to safety. Oh, he does dodge the chimney. Oh, that might have been the difference between life and death there, Clement.
Yeah, I was very surprised that Leon was actually going in on that one. In terms of the damage, he just doesn't pack much kill threat. And ranged champions can always poke you out like that in an extended trade. So Frank Esports are going to use this in the meantime to get a Drake, but can they get out?
Kino, he's the one who's face-checking into Frank, and now Kino goes into stasis, dodges out the Stormbringer, but he gets bursted down all the same, and the rest of Beyond come to the party way too late. A charm does land on Kurt, but not nearly enough. That's going to be turned into a push here, and Frank Esports, all of a sudden, they're the ones in the driver's seat.
And they're looking to get this tower down, but Minji, Everfrost on 2.
Oh, that's massive right now. Husha going to be on the front, getting the kickback. Kurt didn't quite get deleted, but the curtain call may be enough. Eminem soaks one, Holo another. Kurt trying to limp to safety. Mega Gnar does proc once again. Oh, if they all get out scot-free, I do not believe it. Frank got away with murder.
Oh, that was not supposed to happen right there. At the initial try, I feel like Kino went way too far forward. He should have just walked down the lane in order to cut people off, rather than, face check into the brush. Probably wasn't the correct angle to go right there. Beyond Gaming, you could see that they expended the TP first, so they definitely knew that they were going for the chase. They knew that they wanted the kills, they wanted to find a trap right there, but the coordination not really there. They lose one member first, and Frank Esports are able to walk out of all that, despite the great Everfrost from Minji.
And that's kind of what we've been saying about Beyond Gaming, where their struggles have been. Some of these coordinated team fights just haven't looked as crisp as other teams in the top half of the bracket. I think we saw a little bit of that weakness from CFO last week, but not nearly to the same degree. And honestly, I think that's the biggest reason Beyond are sitting at 7-5 and not any higher on the standings.
It's pretty crazy to think that Beyond Gaming were just kind of the top two teams coming into this split, and we thought that maybe Waka would be able to cover up for the absence of Doggo. Of course, he's now playing on BLG. But from this split, what we've seen is Minji is still a ways off from Moan. I feel like Moan had a much more forgiving champion pool. If it was required of him, he could still go on the mages. He had the Yasuo and Yone games, while Minji is much more limited. So I feel like Beyond Gaming has, they're not really a tempo team, but they have to accommodate for Minji, which has really caused a lot of troubles and disruptions, I think, in their overall game plan. They're still very slow in getting things going. And I think Liang, now that he's a level 11 with a lot more kill threat, could start to impact this lane a bit more.
Yeah, Riftmaker going to help him out a little bit too here. Now Beyond are actually going to try to up the tempo themselves as they push on the mid, but Rebirth here has looked pretty solid on this Braum. Obviously his ultimate doesn't land, but he's been able to do a good job zoning off Beyond Gaming members. And I can see why Frank opted for this pick. It really gives them a lot of ability to soak some of the damage threat, whether it is coming from Wako or Minji, or even, Husha. He can't quite get a good angle on. We haven't really seen any of this crazy insects. He's just had ins on the jungle a few times and had an easy wraparound.
Yeah, I think mainly their composition is built to counter the engage from Minji. Ahri is a very mobile champion, but if there's a flash and click stun from Holo, if you get tagged by Winter's Bite coming in from Rebirth, they can kill you out of nowhere. So it's very difficult for Minji to go all in, and we've seen this in multiple team fights where he's just trying to play skirt around the edges rather than going into the backline. A lot of times what Ahris will do is go into the backline, get a kill, and get out, because you get those extra resets. That's the main way you want to play it, especially if you get fed. But in this team fight, he does have to play far more careful than the usual support picks that we've seen so far.
That's true. So here we sit, 18.5 minutes on the clock, 3-3 in kills, even split. Frank are down in gold due to tower and CS differential, but they do have 2 dragons. Worth noting, they do have a Drake stack. It is going to be Ocean Rift this game around, which means you got a few more brushes to play with than usual. But Frank definitely have a decent tempo. We talked about how this is a pretty decent team for team fighting, and they should be pretty happy with how they got out of the laning phase, but let's see if things shift up a little bit. Another dragon going to spawn in less than a minute. And would be able to try and catch that one. Pretender is the one sent to the side lane. Crucially, though, no teleport, so the response would be a bit slower if Beyond forced the issue.
I feel like this is Beyond Gaming. They have to keep map control at all times. If you look at their composition, there are no real tanks coming in here. So you're going up against a team with a lot of hard single-target crowd control and no real tanks. You have to be the ones to find the first foot, get the first foot in, as they're trying to do
tanks,
right now.
They do find the engage, but look at the counter right now. Kino going to get rooted up for days. Kurt chunked on the back line, going to get dove in by Husha, but will it be enough for them to turn the fight? They managed to take out the jungle on the opposite side, but they themselves do finally lose Rebirth, and Beyond get a 2-for-1 deal. Will that be enough to keep the push going? Curtain call open. Pretender forced to flash out of the Ahri charm. That will be enough to take tower. Should be enough to give up dragon as well.
Really nicely played here by Beyond Gaming. I feel like the most critical piece was just the harass coming from Husha. He pretty much solo killed Kurt in Mininar from on the side. Honestly, I feel like if Husha didn't do that, it was a very easy engage. You could see that the battle was already happening. Beyond Gaming were locked in position. That would have been an easy Meganar, but because Husha just took out the main teamfight crowd control threat, none of that really happened, and Beyond Gamer were even able to get the timing window for Gwen to come into the fight and do the chase down. So we're going to watch this again. If I'm Frank Esports, I'm definitely willing to engage on this. My front line is far tankier than the opponent. Unfortunately, they don't find Wako. Wako able to flash out. And watch Kurt here. He doesn't TP, but he walks right in front of Husha and just gets killed before even going into Meganar, which I think hands Beyond Gaming the winning hand in this trade.
Yeah, I agree. I think the positioning, the targeting, the priority there was really good from Husha. He knew what he had to do, and he's going to have limited windows like this to make it count. So crucially, they win that fight. They get a push down mid, get extra gold to open up more of the map. But they also cut the Drake stack a little bit. Pretender. He was looking for an opening. Dangerous game that Wako was playing there, being up on the front. But now they got some confidence to play with. Kino, Hex flashing over. I think he might have been spotted on that ward, but it doesn't look like it.
And most critically, we have seen Liang just use these TPs in, so he was farming beforehand, and he has developed a very sizable CS lead at this point, about 50 CS. Husha should be able to get away from this one. So we could be seeing the side lanes change quite significantly, and that just means Beyond Gaming will have more flanking opportunities against Frank if they walk out towards River.
You can see Frank are trying to stymie wherever Beyond's angles are going to be, but they're losing control of their own jungle here. That blue buff has kind of been owned by Beyond most of the game, starting from that level 1 play by Liang.
Finding a nice double pink ward. Those are always the highlight of my day as a support. It's just like, I get so much gold difference off of that one. That's just a 200 gold difference, just clearing that brush alone. So
feels good,
feels
man.
Nice.
But I think some of the things going for Frank right now are the fact that the kills that they do have. You know, 2 of them are on the Aphelios, 1 of them is on the Vex. They've got gold onto the members that really need it for the most part, but it's still a bit of a deficit to play from, right? You see the gold game kind of starting to slip away from them a bit here. It's about a 4,000 and change gold lead. Eminem does end up picking up another item off that little bit of edge that he has. That is, of course, going to be Bloodthirster. We'll see if he's able to do a little bit more with that. Just trying to stay alive a little bit further, you have to think.
Honestly, even with Frank Esports at a deficit, I feel like if Shadow Surge just lands on someone other than Leona, they should be able to win this team fight quite convincingly. Beyond Gaming, a lot of their stats come from mobility, and they're going up against Gravitum, they're going up against point-and-click crowd control, and a fear that can't be dodged. So
yeah, that's true.
I could easily see Frank Esports just wiping a team fight. All they have to do is just hold on to this gold disadvantage and not do what Kurt is doing, which is putting himself in massive amounts of danger.
Yeah, that Narbar still has a little bit of time. He's going to actually use his, but Liang in the mist. Gwen is immune, and the Scissors beat Rock this time around, but Kurt does not go down, so he's able to stand tough for the time being.
We have seen a lot of Beyond Gaming games that just go to the last team fight with Beyond Gaming just losing out of nowhere, especially against the DCG game. That's exactly what happened.
Right.
And to be honest, I don't feel like Beyond Gaming has been able to find that many picks this game whatsoever. So it is a worrying trend. They are winning just off of insane team fight execution. I don't even feel like they should have won the last team fight, but they did. But I don't think you can rely on just luck throughout all of this one, and I still, in my view, it's still up to Beyond Gaming to push this lead even further. They're not out of the clear.
Well, they are trying to side lane it up, kind of a favored strategy here for them with the 4-1, but you now see a full team roam down bot, and I wonder if the plan is just try and pick Kurt off. He has to know this is coming, and he is going to beat a hasty retreat down away from the tower. And let's see what the response is from Frank. For a second, it looked like they were beelining to the Baron, but that plan got abandoned pretty quickly. This will be a tower for Beyond down bottom. This is a full opening of the map, including the inner that had been taken out earlier down bottom, or down up top, I mean.
Exactly what they need to do. They're putting a lot of vision control onto the Drake area. We still have 30 seconds before that comes up, and Frank Esports are going to have to fight for every inch to get into their own jungle here, as well as Liang just resetting the Mega Gnar. That's also very important in these situations. You want to make sure that he's going to have to clear the wave and doesn't have a good way to charge that Mega Gnar bar up. However, Frank Esports actually just waltz through into the mid lane. They don't get contested at the jungle at all.
They've got the fear off onto Kino. He burns his flash. The chase was on, but that was a good stiff arm there from Beyond, and a pretty heavy investment, but no summoners critically. That opens up on the Dragon. The question is, can they afford to just take this and bait into a 5v5? Oh, they want to catch Wako out, and whoa, the burst is huge! He flashes, but it doesn't matter, and now they find the angle in. This is what you were talking about, and the Goomba stomps continue. 2 quick kills picked up by Pretender, and Husha is way too late to the party. Meanwhile, the fight's happening on multiple fronts. The Gnar might just go down here as Kurt is running out of Narbar, but it's a consolation prize for Beyond Gaming, as look at where Frank are heading, Clement, straight to the Baron.
This is a very slow Baron take, and we do have Leon plus Minji with TP up and about to come in here. This is looking super dicey for Frank.
Oh, it's double TP, but they bait Liang in! Ooh. It was a turn all along! And even in the mist, the Gwen can't stay immune forever. Going into the stasis, that's going to buy enough time to reset. Shut down, massive gold infusion, I should say, into the pocket of Pretender. Eminem flashes for the last hit, and now it's Baron for real. The contest is not going to happen with Husha on cooldown. Or if it does, they might just try and peel him off. Frank Esports with a decisive turn and burn.
Leon played that way too cavalier. He thought that Gwen is immune, was gonna save him, but Rebirth just knocked him up in the mist, and everybody walked in just to kill him. So it was, I like the idea there, but it was probably not executed as safely as it need be. Actually, Frank Esports were very, very slow on taking that Baron, but we're gonna watch this play start again from Pretender. Wako actually kind of psychs himself out and has to flash to his death right there. Overall, this play was just kind of weird for me. I don't like Beyond Gaming's setup. They had full vision control around the red area of the map, but they didn't utilize it whatsoever. So Frank Esports able to waltz up the mid lane. We saw the kill here going by Leon. This is, again, a little bit questionable from Kurt. when your team's winning big in the mid lane, you definitely don't need to engage this one. And then we watch the play here. Rebirth, very smart idea. He just wait into this brush. He knows the likely angles teleports are going to come in. And just watch this. Leon's like, I am immune. Doesn't even get the W up. I thought he would be able to get it. Doesn't find it before he's just completely taken out of the fight.
Yeah, they don't do any follow-up damage. Minji is pretty much zoned off here by, by himself. He can't get the charm landed, and Husha just evaporates. So now with the Baron empowered push, sure, Beyond get, a Constellation Dragon, but it really doesn't matter. Holo tanks up the charm. Pretender, he doesn't end up taking the Shadow Surge in, but Eminem cleans up Kino with a little help from his mid laner. However, here's the counter. That's a big shutdown for Liang. Holo kind of fights it there in the end. Eminem and Kurt are trying to find an answer on the back, but that could be trouble. As the curtain call goes through, they're going to just move out of harm's way. But the root, the charm, all the CC is enough. Eminem going to try and turn something, but they've kind of just handshake themselves to death. Eminem gets one, but that's going to be it. A weird series of events there for Frank. Off the Baron push is an ace.
That's all 5 Baron buffs just completely gone on the side of Frank Esports. And again, this was a 4v5 situation. Kurt did not join the fight until far later than needed be, and we saw Liang already choking off the areas from the flank right there. So just a bit of miscommunication. And one thing, we have said about Frank Esports is they don't really understand split pushing very well with the rest of the team. I think that's kind of an unfortunate example right there. We're going to watch this again. Kino does a very risky engage early on, so he dies right off the bat. But watch where Kurt is going. When the fight starts, he's still very far from the action. But in the meantime, Liang is already front and center in the pile of Frank members. So even when they get Kino first, they still lose the main engagement and gets chased down one by one. I just feel like Kurt was dancing for way too long in that bottom lane. He just needed to be decisive and move towards the rest of the team in order for this to work.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to Eminem for at least getting a shutdown onto the Ahri. That's gold because he knew he was dead either way. But, after that hard-earned Baron to lose it as fast as that, only picking up the mid lane tower, that's a little bit rough. And, I think we're honestly seeing both of these teams' weaknesses on display in this game. So gold starts to swing once again back in the favor of Beyond. Rebirth, forced to flash away. That's a feels bad, man.
Really good footsies from Rebirth as well, just using the jump at an angle to dodge out on the captivating audience as well. So, no, I've been liking Rebirth mechanics so far. Like, this is definitely one of our most exciting rookies that we've seen in the split. He's played very few games, but in the games that he has played, he's been nothing but excellent. So, we're going to continue to watch this one.
I think he might be the guy. We'll have to see how this one keeps on going, but his Braum performance definitely good. A little caught out of position there, but gets out scot-free. With a flash. Ooh, Minji! He got tagged with the present. And that stops the back for the time being. Let's see what Frank do with this. A lot of pings heading up top. There is a lot of standing gold on the map, worth keeping in mind, as the gold lead had been cut down to only about 2,500. Ooh, Kurt. Oh my goodness! He just blind checks that one with the boomerang and stops the Husha back.
It still gives a lot of gold over to Liang. Trading your inner tower for outer tower, definitely still in favor of Beyond Gaming. And right now we're seeing what what's happening on the map is if Frank stay together as 5, there should be no way they lose a team fight. On the flip side for Beyond Gaming, they have to play around Liang. Liang is their most fed member at this point, and how they do around him or how they defend him is going to be a big question.
Okay, Liang getting cut off at the pass by Kurt here, but that is a lot of needles flying. If he gets away from this, oh my word. He baits out the entire team of Frank Esports, and he's fine.
That's absolutely huge, because Beyond Gaming get free map control on the top side. If they want to, they can just waltz up top, but they're going for a pick.
Yeah, they are looking for Rebirth and Holo right now. That is going to be the Glacial Fissure spent just to get them off, and that's a pretty key ultimate burn for a 20-second dragon fight coming up.
The heroics from Liang, and now he's going up towards Kurt once more. He even gets the TP off the Gnar, which is absolutely massive.
Oh gosh, the charm. Holo already taken down to half his
Wako?
hit points, and the turn onto Wako. He's trying to lock it out, and he's burning, gone. But here comes the rest of the fight. Holo gonna use the last of his health bar to tank through as Minji gets the kill credit. Kurt trying to keep the Gwen occupied on the side, but with so many of these Beyond Gaming members collapsed, It's gonna be the big Goomba Stomp squad coming through. Big roots coming out of Eminem. Husha tries to be the hero, takes down Rebirth. Kurt with a fancy flash results in the ace for FAK Esports.
It's amazing stuff coming out from Beyond Gaming and FAK Esports. Honestly, FAK Esports, that's just the raw strength of their team fighting composition. They can kill Wako in the blink of an eye, and really their composition is so well set up against anti-mobility. So even with losing Hollow essentially out of the fight, right at the get-go, it doesn't even matter. They still roll through Beyond Gaming, and we could see in that fight it was very difficult for Minchi to put any damage past the Unbreakable. Rebirth just standing on the front, doesn't have his ultimate, doesn't even matter, is able to just completely decimate the enemy team. Again, Wako should be a lot more careful with his positioning. That was a little bit inexcusable right there, and you can tell Liang here doesn't have his ultimate, so that's a huge amount of power not present for them. Rebirth just standing in the front, making sure Liang is isolated in the back line, and they just chase down the rest.
Meanwhile, Pretender just continues to get fed. I love this as well coming out from Eminem. And Husha, I mean, okay, sure, he's going to go in and kill Rebirth, but it's the same consolation prize that we saw earlier from Eminem in the jungle. So now the kill score flips. FAK Esports in the lead. What a bloody game this has been. And the gold is just bang on even, as if it meant anything at this point in the game. But critically, 2 Fed carries here. You've got the Aphelios and the Vex looking huge. This is going to be tough for Beyond Gaming in a straight-up 5v5, and FAK know it. They're going to throw their weight around here in the mid lane.
I wonder what the defensive item is going to be coming out from Wako. We definitely need something like at least a GA, or even if he wants to, he could go for
a stopwatch at least, right?
Yeah, he's so vulnerable right now.
Okay, that is Rebirth getting caught. I mean, I wanted to say that was bait, but they didn't really find a good counter engage there, so I guess advantage Beyond for the time being.
Really good cutoff from Beyond, just coming in with the Gwen is immune, is able to ward off the rest of Frank.
A good cutoff. It's one of those
I got
days,
your drift. I got your drift.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, Leon has had a really good game, right? The issue is this is just such a hard 5v5 for Beyond Gaming, and even if it weren't, that is a little bit of where they've struggled this split right now. So we'll see if things improve a bit for them going forward. But I think FAK have done a good job of not only neutralizing Wako in a lot of these fights, but holding Leon at bay too. I mean, Kurt's job is to basically just stiff arm him and Meganar until the team can finish off the rest of the squad. And they've been able to execute on it.
I do want to point out the bottom left side of the screen right now. We do have a death cap complete and 572 AP
10,
on Pretender.
10 stack Darkseal. Build a Medjai's. Do it. He really should. His Vex is beastly, man.
Like, Beyond Gaming are playing so risky like that. If I'm Pretender, I'm willing to just go all in with Beyond Gaming in that position.
I mean, he might as well, right? He's also got Zhonya's if he really needs to. Like, his team backs him up. I think this is the strength of FAK Esports, is they do make the calls together when they are together. The issue is, getting together sometimes is a little bit rough. They can't afford to split off as much, especially with only one teleport on the team. But at this point, they demand a lot of attention, and if Beyond split, that could be another Baron take.
True. I want to see what the TP timer is looking like for Kurt right here. The most important thing, I think the best way for Beyond Gaming to come back into this one is to split push Leon and then fold in for a 5v4. Kurt does have his TP, but is choosing to group together here. I think Beyond Gaming, if they want to play this game out, they have to be willing to sort of chance a 4-man defensive Baron. They have to keep Leon pushing in. I don't think their current play here, like, if you're standing as 5-man, if I'm FAK, I'm still willing to engage on you. It doesn't even matter for me. So with DPI, I really think they should be trying to split.
Oh, damn. Yeah, Pretender's not going to go in when his team's back, but still, it does so much damage. I think the Beyond Gaming were kind of playing with the trump card there because they had a ward that was unspotted by FAK just upriver of Baron, so they were not at all baited out by the head fake. So
good catch.
FAK Esports, I still don't think they've noticed this. Leon's with the team, though.
They don't see it just yet.
Yeah.
That's even more reason for Leon not to be with the team, though.
That's true. I mean, that word's not going to last forever, but they still haven't seen it, and now they start Baron.
Okay.
All right.
See if Shadow Surge can work out for Pretender. He does have to cool down back.
Oh, now they know. Okay, however, Baron already committed right here. 9,000, not the fastest Baron take, but they will be able to find Kino. They peel off immediately, and that is going to be a lot of ultimate spent. Oh my goodness, look at the angle, look at the corridor that they found there. Beyond Gaming, they're going to open up, try to get the pickoffs. Rebirth, nearly going to fall here, and with the needlework, Liang is able to do it. And it's Frank Esports running for the hills. They lose 2 quickly, but will they be able to find more? Kino, Shadow Surge, that's going to be, the tag! They switch from Minji! What a brilliant play as they get the collapse on Pretender and cut him down to size.
Oh, they don't find anyone, but Eminem is going in, trying to save the day!
Oh, I don't think you're going to get it, buddy. It was a nice try, but that is going to be the ace, and cleanly so beyond what fancy footwork they have. Although, I said clean ace, I think he was still alive and all of that, and here he is, in fact. But, yeah, what a huge swing.
That could just be the game.
Am I?
It's 45 seconds on Eminem, and Beyond Gaming are just barreling down the mid lane. That was... I think Frank just used way too much on the turn. They actually expended Neganar plus Glacial Fissure and didn't even catch Kino. That's kind of a really weird application of abilities right there, and they're the ones that need to play counter engage.
They did. This is going to be the last stand hold for Frank Esports as this game just swings on a pendulum once again in favor of Beyond. There's the cleanup, there's the base, and Beyond Gaming snatch victory from the jaws of defeat.
I was rooting for Frank in that team fight. I felt like Pretender had another great game, but they just overextended so incredibly hard on the last team fight. Their composition is not built for engages, and they just whiffed so many abilities on Kino. Kino's not really afraid about being a tank and soaking up damage right there. You can see throughout that entire fight, both Liang and Wako were completely safe because enemy abilities were simply on cooldown. They didn't have Glacial Fissure to hold the ramp. You saw Liang just charging down with the Gwen and Needlework onto 4 members there of Frank, and it's such a weird game because I feel like Frank really had a lot of this in the bag, but unfortunately their last teamfight execution was a bit of a head scratcher. The idea was okay, the execution was way too far off.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing in some of these fights is Frank Esports really falling into the sunk cost fallacy, right? A number of fights that they really shouldn't have taken after a couple of key cooldowns blown, they double down. And here's going to be that last fight again. They're on Baron. It's not a bad start, but they tag Kino and he flashes. And yeah, at this point, you've already gone too deep.
Yeah, look at this. Kurt has to use his ultimate to disengage, and I just don't know why Rebirth used the Glacial Fissure there. That was so weird. You got the flash from Leona. You most likely got the ultimate from Leona as well. You just try to hold the ramp there. You keep the Glacial Fissure, make sure the enemy can't continue to chase down on the rest of your team. You have the Unbreakable to just block out Jhin damage. You can reset that fight easily. But, I think, we've been seeing the praises of Rebirth, but at the end of the day, he still is a very young player, and I think that was just sort of those growing pain mistakes that you have to pay to the PCS.
Yeah, unfortunate. I think Frank Esports certainly could have had a win very easily had they just continued their trend of taking the smart fights and really just keeping the damage-dealing threats away. But unfortunately for them, they couldn't quite do it. They overplayed their hand here, and Beyond Gaming, credit to them, this is a very experienced squad that knows how to take advantage of enemy mistakes. They did draft themselves into a bit of a corner, but kind of just came out swinging and managed to turn the game around on its head. So they will continue to gatekeep that spot in the PCS, improving to 8-5. But this is definitely showing that there is anything but certainty in some of these matchups at the middle of the table, Clem. And I think there is a lot of pole position to be jockeyed for the playoffs still yet to come.
I still haven't seen a very convincing 5v5 from Beyond Gaming. I think that's their issue so far. I'm not saying their last couple of fights were bad, but they don't have the ability to play front-to-back team fight for the most of their games. They are drafting compositions that are suited for Minji, which are assassin-focused, but they're also not a tempo-based comp. So they have a really narrow niche of winning games, which is you fall behind early, and then you outplay with experience in the mid-game, and then you rely on enemy to throw to come back and win, which is what we see on this graph exactly.
It's kind of weird how well that mirrors like the exact apparent game plan of Beyond Gaming. But you're right, against tougher opponents, it just doesn't work all that well. And, I think there were a couple of mistakes in the draft on both sides. I think Frank gave away the Gwen. I mean, he said, okay, you're going to take the Gnar counter. It still felt a little weird. Liang is going to earn the MVP because he did draw so much pressure, so much attention. I mean, I'm thinking to that bot lane after he takes out the inner turret, and the entire team dives him, and he just runs out of it. Liang is a madman.
Yeah, Gwen things are just amazing to absolutely behold, and this is kind of the linchpin to Beyond Gaming strategies, is if Liang cannot split push, they basically don't have a win condition late game. Because they can't take you 5v5. Minji's not going to provide tempo early game. They need that lane to draw other members away, and for them to find those 5v4 team fights. So Liang is absolutely necessary for their success. We saw the game when Driver got ahead, the game instantly imploded on the side of Beyond Gaming, and very similar things happening against, I believe, J-Team earlier on. So
right.
I feel like even though this was a solid win from Beyond Gaming, it does kind of give everyone in the league a very clear indication of how to play against them.
Yeah, when you have a very specific strategy, all teams have to do is find a way to counter that strategy, and a number of them have done it, but Beyond still get a win at the end of the day. We will be going on cooldown when we come back, Sem9 taking on Meta Falcon team.